Good morning, everyone. Imagine yourself decades from now, looking back at your life. What will you see? The decisions you made, the risks you took, the moments you seized? Or will it be the opportunities you let pass, the chances you didn't take, and the words you left unspoken? The greatest regret we can have isn't about failing, it's about never trying. That's why I believe risk is always better than regret. Let me share 5 key ideas that illustrate why. Clarity starts with your why. Risk feels overwhelming when we don't know what we're doing it for. It's like being in a boat in the middle of the ocean with no compass. The waves feel stronger, the distance feels endless, and every direction seems like it could be the wrong one. But when you have clarity, when you know your why, you suddenly have a direction, a purpose that makes the uncertainty worth it. Now, let's talk about why the why is so powerful. The why isn't about what you do. It's not even about how you do it. It's about the belief that drives you forward. It's the reason you wake up in the morning, the thing that keeps you going even when the odds are stacked against you. Your why is the anchor in a storm. It doesn't stop the waves, but it keeps you steady. Think about the Wright brothers. They weren't the most qualified. They didn't have the funding or the resources that other inventors had, but they had something far more important. They had a crystal clear why. They believed in the power of flight, not for fame, not for fortune, but because they saw it as a way to connect humanity. And that belief fueled them through every setback. Every time a plane crashed, every time the wind didn't cooperate, they didn't see failure as a reason to stop. They saw it as a step closer to their purpose. That's what the why does. It turns risks into stepping stones, not roadblocks. Now compare that to someone who doesn't have a why. Without purpose, every risk feels bigger than it is. Every mistake feels like a dead end. You start questioning yourself, why am I even doing this? And that's the most dangerous place to be, not in the face of risk, but in the face of doubt. But when you know your why, something amazing happens. You stop focusing on the fear of failure, and you start focusing on the possibilities. Growth lives outside your comfort zone. Let's talk about comfort zones. We all have one. It's the space where we feel safe, where we know the rules, and where everything feels manageable. But here's the thing. Comfort zones are great for stability, but they're terrible for growth. Think about it. When was the last time you grew as a person because everything in your life was easy? Growth doesn't come from ease. It comes from challenge, from discomfort, from stepping into the unknown. And stepping out of your comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. Here's why. Inside your comfort zone, you're surrounded by what you already know, your skills, your habits, your routines. But the very definition of growth is expanding beyond what you already know. It's about becoming something more than what you are today. And that only happens when you stretch yourself. Let me give you an example. A caterpillar inside a cocoon is safe. It's warm, it's protected, and nothing is forcing it to change. But the very act of breaking free, of struggling to escape that cocoon, is what gives it the strength to fly. Without that struggle, without that discomfort, it would never transform into a butterfly. The same is true for us. Growth requires struggle. It requires risk. It requires us to leave the safety of what we know and venture into the uncertainty of what could be. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Your comfort zone doesn't disappear when you leave it. It expands. What was once uncomfortable becomes your new normal. That's how growth works. It's incremental. It's the sum of all those small steps you took into the unknown, each one pushing the boundaries of what you thought was possible. But staying in your comfort zone, that's the real risk. Because the world doesn't stop moving. The people who are willing to grow, to stretch, to take risks, they're the ones shaping the future. If you choose to stay where it's safe, you're not just standing still, you're falling behind. And yes, stepping outside your comfort zone is scary, but fear is a sign that you're on the right track. Fear means you're doing something that matters, something that has the potential to change you. Fear is your body's way of saying, this is new, this is important, pay attention. Now think about this. Every great achievement in history, every innovation, every breakthrough came from someone who was willing to leave their comfort zone. It came from someone who said, I don't know how this will turn out, but I'm going to try anyway. It's not about knowing the outcome. It's about trusting the process. Failure is a teacher, regret is a prison. Failure, it's a word that makes most of us uneasy. We're taught to avoid it at all costs, to see it as something to be ashamed of, something to fear. But let me ask you this. How many of us have learned our greatest lessons, built our greatest strengths, and discovered who we really are because of failure? Failure is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also necessary. It's a teacher, arguably the best one we'll ever have. Think about the first time you learned to ride a bike. Did you get it right on the first try? Probably not. You wobbled, you fell, you scraped your knees. And every time you fell, you learned something new, how to balance, how to steer, how to trust yourself. Failure wasn't the end of the story. It was the process of learning. Now let's compare that to regret. Regret doesn't teach us. Regret doesn't build us. Regret doesn't make us stronger. Regret is a prison, a heavy chain that holds us back. And the cruelest part? Regret isn't about what we did, it's about what we didn't do. At the end of the day, we don't regret failing. We regret the chances we didn't take, the risks we avoided, the words we never said, the dreams we let slip away because we were too afraid of failing. Regret keeps us awake at night, replaying moments in our heads, wondering, what if? Failure, on the other hand, gives us closure. It says, you tried, you gave it everything you had, now here's what you can take away from it. Failure provides clarity, while regret leaves us with endless questions and no answers. Here's the irony. The fear of failure often leads us to avoid taking action altogether, and that's exactly what creates regret. We convince ourselves it's safer to stay on the sidelines, to keep our heads down, to avoid risks. But avoiding failure doesn't mean we're avoiding pain. It means we're trading one type of pain for another. The pain of failure is temporary. The sting of a missed opportunity, the frustration of a setback, it fades with time. And what's left is the wisdom we gain from it. But the pain of regret, that's different. It doesn't fade. It lingers. It becomes a shadow that follows us, a constant reminder of what could have been. Now, imagine if we flipped our perspective. What if we saw failure not as something to avoid, but as something to embrace? What if every stumble, every mistake, every moment of falling short was actually a step forward? Because that's exactly what failure is. It's progress in disguise. It's not the opposite of success, it's a part of success. Risk inspires others. Risk is contagious. Think about that for a moment. When one person takes a risk, steps out of their comfort zone, tries something new, or stands up for what they believe in, it sparks something in the people around them. Why? Because risk is an act of courage, and courage is magnetic. Let's look at the world around us. Every movement, every breakthrough, every shift in history started with someone willing to take a risk. Rosa Parks didn't know how the world would respond when she refused to give up her seat. But her courage, her willingness to take a stand, inspired a movement that changed the course of history. The same is true for leadership. When a leader takes a risk, they give their team permission to do the same. They say, it's okay to try something bold. It's okay to fail. It's okay to put yourself out there. And that creates an environment where people feel safe to innovate, to grow, and to push boundaries. Think about a time when you saw someone take a risk. Maybe it was a colleague who presented a daring idea in a meeting. Maybe it was a friend who pursued a dream despite the odds. How did it make you feel? Chances are it didn't just impress you, it challenged you. It made you ask yourself, what's stopping me from taking a risk like that? That's the power of risk. It's not just about the person taking it, it's about everyone who witnesses it. Risk creates ripples. And it's not just the big risks that inspire. Sometimes it's the small ones, the everyday acts of bravery that show others what's possible. Like the shy student who raises their hand in class for the first time, or the entrepreneur who launches a business even when the statistics are stacked against them. These moments may seem ordinary, but they have extraordinary power to inspire. And remember, always Here's the thing, when you take a risk, you're showing others what's possible. You're saying, this is how you push past fear, this is how you embrace uncertainty, this is how you grow. And that kind of example doesn't just inspire, it empowers. It gives others the courage to follow in your footsteps, or even better, to blaze their own trail. Now, let's get real for a second. Taking a risk isn't easy. It comes with fear, with doubt, with the possibility of failure. But those moments of vulnerability, that's where the inspiration lies. Because when people see you take a risk, when they see you step into uncertainty and give it your all, they don't see weakness. They see strength. They see authenticity. They see someone who's willing to try, and that makes them want to try too. Legacy comes from the risks we take. A legacy, it's not just about what we leave behind, it's about the impact we create while we're here. The truth is, our legacy isn't built on the easy decisions, the moments when everything felt safe and predictable. No, our legacy is shaped by the bold choices we make, the risks we're willing to take, and the courage we show when the outcome is uncertain. Think about the people whose names echo through history. Did they achieve greatness by sticking to what was easy? Did they play it safe? Of course not. They stepped into the unknown. They took risks, sometimes monumental ones, not because they were guaranteed success, but because they believed in something bigger than themselves. Take someone like Nelson Mandela. After 27 years in prison, he had every reason to play it safe, to avoid further risk. But he didn't. He risked everything, his safety, his reputation, even his life, to fight for a vision of equality and unity. And today, his legacy isn't defined by the years he spent behind bars, it's defined by the risks he took to create a better world. That's the thing about legacy. It's not about avoiding failure. It's not about living a life free of mistakes. Legacy is about the bold decisions we make in the face of uncertainty. It's about the moments when we say, this matters enough to me that I'm willing to risk everything for it. And here's the beautiful part. Legacy isn't just for the famous or the revolutionary. It's for all of us. It's in the parent who takes a risk to follow a dream, showing their kids what's possible. It's in the teacher who steps beyond the curriculum to inspire their students to think differently. It's in the leader who dares to challenge the status quo, knowing the road ahead will be difficult. Our legacy isn't written in stone. It's written in the hearts of the people we touch. And those moments of impact, they come from risk, because when we take risks, we create stories. We create moments that others remember, that inspire them, that make them say, because they dared, I can too. Think of the people who have influenced your life the most. Chances are they weren't the ones who played it safe. They were the ones who took risks, sometimes big, sometimes small. They were the ones who showed you what was possible by stepping into the unknown. And that's the ultimate power of risk. It doesn't just change your life. It changes the lives of the people around you. It sets an example. It creates a ripple effect. It shows others that greatness doesn't come from certainty. It comes from courage.